So my name is Rachel Gomez, so I work as a business advisor with a Small Business Development Center, SBDC for short, and we are primarily funded by the SBA. So that's a federal agency that provides guarantees, federal government guarantees for business loans, kind of like FHA for home mortgage loans. And so, I hope he's on there. In that we are primarily funded by the SBA, we are able to provide business consulting, business coaching, advising services to our small business community at no cost, ever. So, excuse me. And so what does that mean? What sort of services do we do? So we have a lot of startups or entrepreneurs that come to us and say, hey, I've got this great idea. Can you help me flush it out? Is this something that I can turn into a business? Okay, I'm ready to form my business. Now I need to know all of the legal ways, of the regulations, the permitting, the registrations for business licenses. So we go through all of that with them and we help them through that process. And then what are the next stages? A business plan, because you really do need a framework in order to move forward your business. You know, we have a lot that come to us, good morning, that come to us and they're ready to launch, right? I've got, in the tech space in particular, I get a lot of people that come our way that have investor interest. And they're like, hey, I've already pitched these investors, they're ready to commit $500,000, but I don't know if I should be an LLC or a corporation. I don't have a business plan, and they're asking for my financial projections. So we help to fill in those gaps and to really help you gain a solid understanding of your business model, and then help prepare you for those next areas. We also help with those pitch decks and having some of those investor conversations as well. So please feel free to reach out to me. So who's the SBDC? Again, we are your first call to start or grow your business. The SBDC is also a national organization. So we exist in every state in cooperation with a university. So here in Nevada, we are one of the, I think only one of 3 SBDCs that have more than one center in the state. So we have one tied to UNR, and then I'm tied to UNLV. So we provide one-on-one advising. We also offer educational workshops. And every business advisor, we're all generalists, so we can help you throughout that process, but we also have our own special areas of expertise. So my background, I am a creative. Aside from the creative industry, though, I am a business owner. I've had my own staffing agency, HR consultant, corporate talent acquisition. So I have a lot of experience regarding compliance and employment law. So, excuse me, but we do have experts, subject matter experts that are in marketing, digital analysis, market research, those sort of things. So legal, so we help with licensing, business structures, as I mentioned, accounting. So we will also help with financial statement reviews, bookkeeping advice. And then a lot of companies that come our way ultimately are looking for funding, right? I need to grow my business, I need to start my business. Some come and they're not even prepared to pay for the $425 fee to register as an LLC with the state. They want to get funding first. So what does that funding climate look like, right? So we can go through that based on your specific scenario. It could be in terms of an SBA-backed business loan, but who's lending these days, right? So based on your situation, good morning, based on your situation, it's a matter of who can I partner you with that's most likely going to approve your loan. And if not that, what grants are available? Things are changing pretty regularly. There are some state-funded grants where the money comes from the Department of Treasury, so they weren't locked up by the government shutdown. They were funded and allocated prior to. And then there are others like SBIR, STTR that just completely halted. SBA halted for a while. So, you know, keep in touch with us. Let's have these conversations so we can keep up with how those might impact your business. Not just for today, but also for future growth. So today I just wanted to touch on briefly before I bring in our guest speaker, lovely guest speaker. I love her to death. She's a great leader in our creative community. She also speaks a lot regarding our creative economy, and is in a lot of discussions right now regarding AI and its impact on the creative economy, but also what does that look like in terms of we're not always needing to learn how to use AI for marketing or for our businesses. Maybe you're building an AI tool. Excuse me, but this is really the other side of the conversation. What are the discussions regarding any limitations that maybe the government is looking to put on AI? Things along that line. But before we get to that, we've had a lot of questions regarding, am I a tech company? Am I a tech startup? Right? What are the differences there? Because at the SBDC, me in particular, I also have my own tech platform. So I understand the whole tech founder mentality. It is very, very unique. And I've gone through that process. So what is the difference between a tech company, a tech startup, and then a small business startup? And then where do they intersect? So for a tech company, anybody here have a tech company or think they have a tech company? Okay. So a business whose core product or service is built on technology, usually has established revenue, stable operations, and a known market. Focuses on scaling existing products, optimizing systems, and expanding market share. So you want to think in terms of established SaaS firms, production houses with proprietary tech major platforms. Okay. What's a tech startup? Okay, a lot of people here that come to Tech Alley are tech startups. They're founders. Maybe they have experience with a tech company and now they have an idea for something else. So it's a young company designed to scale fast, typically built around innovation or new market opportunity. Still validating its business model, often pre-revenue. Operates under uncertainty, product market fit, user adoption, funding rounds. So you want to think in terms of MVPs, beta platforms, and apps. Anybody a tech startup? Okay, identify with a tech founder mentality, right? Exactly. Yeah, so what does that mean? So a young company, you're probably wearing all the hats, right? You're doing the design, you're doing the development. Maybe you're bringing in a development team, but really it's dependent on you. It's dependent on your time and your ability to be able to see it from one phase to another. And those are a lot that participate in the incubators and accelerators here in town. And what are the goals for the incubators and accelerators? It's really to get the tech founders to pitch. And then once they pitch to an investor group, right, then what? So we get a lot of, I personally, because of my area with tech, I get a lot of companies that come to me and say, hey, I pitched, like I said, I have investors that are interested, and then they come back to me and they're like, okay, they're asking for a business plan. And it's like, but they were interested in my model beforehand. They were willing to commit $500,000. How come now they're asking for a business plan? So they end up kind of going backwards. So really the goal is let's give you a good framework to work with. And then small business startups. Who here identifies with a small business startup? Or small business? Or yeah, independent freelancer, sure. So it's a new business that is building steady, sustainable operations. Focuses on customers, community, and dependable revenue, not disruptive innovation. Growth is linear, not exponential. So you think consulting firms, restaurants, agencies, creative studios. So how do they differ, right? Tech companies are heavier in their technical teams, require ongoing maintenance. Tech startups are much more agile, right? They need to pivot quickly. They wear multiple hats. They're getting feedback on their MVPs and their beta stage products. And so they have to respond to that feedback from those early users. Small business startups, very defined roles. You think in terms of being organized, right? Having a real structured organization. And so your processes matter more than innovation because that's what's going to keep everybody aligned and move that vision forward. How do they differ in funding? Okay, that's a really important thing. Tech companies are revenue driven, maybe investor backed, but not always, right? Do you have an investor, for yours, or is it pretty much self-funded and you're relying on revenue to be able to continue to fund your operations, right? Tech startups. Many think they are a tech startup. And so they have the idea, They focus on that pitch, right? The whole visual presentation, and being able to step in front of the group of investors, and they're hoping for that one major angel investor to come in and say, I align with that, I see your vision, and I want to be able to fund you. And that's kind of the mentality for a tech startup. So raising money is part of the business model to accelerate growth quickly. And then small business startups, right? Bootstrap, bank loans, grants, and community resources. So we talked about the mindset and speed. And so here are the areas that they intersect. All three share entrepreneurship, risk, right? Whatever their adversity to risk is, or how they measure risk, that's something that we help coach them on. A need for systems, leadership, and financial discipline, branding, sales. Need to adapt market shifts. That means you need to understand your market. You have to do your full market analysis, your competitive analysis, all of that. A tech startup and tech company, so both rely heavily on technology, even if one is scaling and the other is proving the model. Tech startup and small business startup. So both are building from scratch, often with limited resources. Both founders wear all the different hats, and both must validate their audience. And that's a lot of what I get. So a lot of that is, especially like in the creative world, it's hard to shift hats, right? We get stuck in one mode. But at the end of the day, we're all business owners. So as business owners, you have to at some point put the business hat on. We have to talk about the finances. We have to talk about your financial structure, your organizational structure. Tech companies still need strong business fundamentals. That's a tech company plus the small business startup. That means at what point are you going to be hiring employees? What's the difference between 1099 W-2? What does the Department of Labor say about that? What are the compliance things that you're responsible for being a business owner, regardless of your industry? Customer experience. How are you going to validate and support your customers, or early customers, right, that are validating your product? Operations and all, just like a small business. So not all startups are tech startups. Not all tech companies start as startups, and small businesses can become tech-enabled, but tech is not their product. And so with that, I'm going to bring it back to UNLV and the SBDC. We have different workshops to support the different industries here in Las Vegas. We have one for the construction industry. We're coming out with an educational food lab, a healthcare series, AI essentials for small business, and then we'll be rolling out a tech innovation lab called Campus to Capital, probably in the next couple of months. And that will be a 6 to 8 week workshop. So I'll be presenting more on that. And then now I'd like to bring up Sarah O'Connell. I want her to be able to delve into her areas of expertise. Oh, I'm sorry, did you have questions?
Yeah, quick question. So back to, so if you have a consulting firm, also building a product, would that be like an intersection between the small?
Absolutely. You know, everybody's situation may be different. So I'd say reach out to me. Let's kind of figure out how you are building the consulting side versus the actual product. If it's one and the same, and it's just a matter of how you're marketing it, how you're communicating to that potential audience, or if it really should be viewed as two separate sides of the business. So let's sit down and talk about it. But yeah, I think there's probably an intersection there. Okay, sorry, yay.
Trying to find ways to get people to understand how creative entrepreneurs are just like and not alike other entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I'm observing in the way you've described the difference between a tech startup and a small business startup is that the dynamics and some of the challenges of the tech startup are also always the same case with a performing arts or arts organization. That when you're doing performing arts, you aren't just focusing on the joy of imagining things, which are creative energy. you are actually reinventing, like in the theater, like you reinvent the product every year. You actually kind of to rebrand your organization every year because this season has to take on a life of its own. There's a whole other layer of complexity where no matter how long an arts organization has been established, it is always going to have those sort of fluctuations and challenges and irregularities of a startup company, because the theater company could have been there 50 years, but every season it's a new company. And it's even new staff, and now the way things are funded, you aren't able to keep consistent staff. So you are literally every project restaffing your company. And so structurally, that's one of the challenges within the creative industries, is that we aren't actually, no one's designed anything with them in mind for business. But in identifying how business runs itself, someone like me as an artist is trying to then understand what needs to be invented as a third way for creative minds and business to actually understand how they can maximize each other. So that's sort of why I'm but yeah, that's a great example. So anyway, hi, I'm Sarah. Oh good, it worked. Okay. So I have postcards later, so whatever, but there's a QR code here if you want it for the website that goes to. But I actually founded 10 years ago, it was 10 years ago this month, I'm shocked to say, eatmoreartvegas.com, which is a website because you are what you eat, so you should eat more art. And what it is it's a platform that promotes all the local arts and culture community here, all the different nonprofit theaters and even for-profit, because there's lots of arts organizations that actually aren't nonprofit, but they provide all kinds of stuff you would think of as a nonprofit arts organization. So it was here to help the local community see the arts that are here, and it was here to help the artists see each other, because of where we live, it's very hard to get anything past the glare of the neon lights, right? We can't really promote ourselves to tourists because the strip kind of blinds out everything that's on the strip. But those are the same airwaves and budgets that we also need to reach the locals. So we actually have a hard time telling the locals that we exist. So we're here, but there's all these like smoke screens and shields where you can't see us. And if the artists can't find their audience, the audience can't find their art. So we just have problems with the whole point, don't we? So I formed Eat More Art Vegas 10 years ago because I decided instead of just focusing on promoting my own artistic organization, which is the Asylum Theater, it's a theater company that's been founded. It was founded in 1996 by a woman who was a very well-established actress back east, and her husband, Davy Marlon Jones, used to run the original playwriting programs at the Arena Stage in DC and at St. Louis Rep, which was a majorly important new workplace in American theater. And they were brought out here to help with the playwriting program that UNLV used to have. And they founded this theater company that was here to help bring artists from other places. Writers would come here and they would develop their work because they didn't want to show it in New York or Chicago yet because they'd get yelled at in the news. So they came out here and would develop it out of the eyes of those critics and then go back. And so the Asylum has always been, like its name, a haven for artists' voices, advocating for contemporary artists, the voices that get drowned out, usually, in culture. And so I took it over in 2002. You weren't even a twinkle in my eye. This is my son, Lyric. He's a computer science major, and he suffered as a child of a crazy theater mom all his life. Props. What I did is my background was in international theater directing. I moved here from San Francisco in 2002. After my dad got out of the Air Force, I grew up in Silicon Valley when it was farmland, and they built Silicon Valley because I'm a Gen Xer. I experienced the invention of the internet and .comism and all of that when I was in college. Like we got our first email address after I graduated college. But I saw what it did to like my artistic friends and the landscape. And my dad was in defense, he was a rocket scientist, my mom was a second grade teacher. So you end up with a STEAM kid, right? All of this matters. I'm telling you all this because what I am is an example of thousands of people like me who live here, right? They've maybe come from somewhere else. They have very interesting backgrounds or they've gotten all this training. They're in the creative fields because either entertainment or the trade show industry brought them here. My husband is a lighting designer, so he does like rock and roll stuff. As a matter of fact, he's supposed to be coming from the airport. He's Creedence Clearwater's LD. They're on tour right now. And so what we are is we're a household where we have someone who works as like a stagehand on the entertainment strip in entertainment technology, doing all the moving lights and robotic lights and major show control in arenas. And you have someone like me who is a nonprofit theater director who teaches at the university and teaches people with their bare hands with no technology about the same creativity, the same imagination, the same making of theater. So what you have in the people living here in Las Vegas is a lot of people who are either experts in creativity with their bare hands or they're experts in their creativity with the technology. But now we live in the era of AI, where they're inventing all these things where they think they've invented technology that can create, somehow not necessarily considering the bare hands it's meant to help. So we have this problem where we have a technology that does creative things. You even have AI in lighting and robotics design. You can have, people having AI composing melodies or coming up with some kind of visual imagery, right? But what's really happening is not the same thing as what's happening when I create or when my husband creates. Because when we create these things, not only is it because we are humans who remember that the whole point of all this junk is people. So everything we create is human designed, human-centered, right? That's one thing that happens when you create with humans. But the other thing that happens when you ask a human to create is they create an economy. Like, if you ask me to put up a billboard, great, you have an advertisement. But you ask me to advertise with theater, I can now employ a whole bunch of people into work, right? So if that's what the difference between theater and watching something on a screen, what's happening to the workforce is the difference between showing something on a screen and hiring people to do it, right? So here we are trying to make business as entrepreneurs here in Las Vegas, where we see all the technology and all the money, and we see all the locals with all the talent, and we see a lot of struggling, talented locals and a lot of people with money they don't know what to do with, so they throw it at every kind of crazy thing they want to do to the Strip. And we're trying to see how do we get them to understand you need both, or both are going to die. That is the whole reason a theater person like me butted my nose into AI policy, because I understood on one end is the rockets that my dad was making in Silicon Valley, and on the other end is the little kids my mom was teaching in 2nd grade, and in between is like our whole lives, like everything that happens to us, and the theater is about all the life in between, right? So I thought, I'm trying to save the lives of my people in Las Vegas on the street. I need to find out how high up I can get to have the AI conversation, because we're the rainforest and they're the ones coming to chop us down. But if they would talk to us, it would become about a renaissance and a space program as opposed to an arms race. Because again, in Silicon Valley, I understood the difference between NASA and ballistic missiles, but that they were the same scientists. And it's the same with our talent. We could be using this to get everybody rich, not just people who don't understand why we should have creative humans talking about the design of technology and the rules we make for technology companies. Okay, so this is actually as pragmatic as possible in that AI is really overwhelming, so we all we suck away from it. If we can't figure out how to make it do something work for us, then we run away from it, and then it's gonna come and eat us alive. But the reality is AI is really just to make everything else one binary bit of information at a time. And in the theater, if there's one thing we know, one step at a time, you can do Hamlet. So it starts with this. Technologists will tell you that AI is democratizing. Technologists will tell you that technology is liberating. Because look at all the people who can do all these things now, who couldn't do it before. But the truth is, for those of us who have worked at an AI policy, where I've worked at the international and local levels in advising people on what to look out for, what guardrails to put up, we understand that technology is not democratizing, it's disseminating. Meaning, it's not about empowering everyone equally from their individual place. It's about spreading it out to more people, which we all understand is not the same thing. If someone threw a bunch of money in the air, that's disseminating it to everyone, but some people catch more than others and some people don't catch any. So it's not democratizing, right? So that's where all these inequalities come from. So whether you're a big cheese who wants to be a tech company guy someday, or you're the little person who hates tech, you have to find a way to talk about AI in your life and advocate for yourself, because that's where your equality is going to come from, your ability to advocate for yourself in this era and make the technology empower you, as opposed to it being something that you catch it like a goodie from a rich guy when he feels like it. And then you get to use it whenever they let you have the toys. The real power over technology is always over power over policy. So if you're afraid of AI, then here's how you can dive into that conversation. Now, I just want to point, the reason why, again, I do this is for what you see here in this. The story of what this photo is. This is why I went all the way to Amazon's headquarters for this symposium last month about artists leading the AI conversation. This is a play called Scherzo by a very important Colombian playwright named Rafael Guisado. He founded Colombia's national radio after World War II to help establish it as a democracy. He wrote plays for the radio as part of that to try to help people be entertained by the radio. And he wrote a play, because he had been a former diplomat turned writer, about this politician who dies, and his soul gets trapped in the statue they made to memorialize him. And he has to live with the truth of when everyone goes to visit his statue of what they really think of him, because they don't know he can hear what they're saying. And the park comes alive in the form of a beautiful black woman as the Mother Earth. And she comes alive to tell him all the things that are wrong with his arrogance and his lust for power. This play was written in 1941. It could have been written yesterday. My colleague at the asylum translates things from Spanish to English, and we do that as an act of liberation so these other playwrights can be learned about in the English-speaking world. And in order for me to advocate for this obscure little play that was translated by my colleague, I had to make sure that I learned how to advocate for the idea of theater in a technological world. And this was coming out of the pandemic. And we had all learned now how Zoom had really helped us. And the reason I was able to do this play is because Zoom allowed me during the pandemic to connect with a group in the university in London called King's College, and they were the translators who connected us all together. So technology helped open and liberate my theater, because a playwright who is not obscure in the Spanish-speaking world is totally unknown in America, but it also turns out that happens to be my colleague's grandfather. And so she learned how to translate plays as an act of liberation to find out what her grandfather's play said. Then we premiered it and sent it on an international tour. So the reason why we advocate is because people don't know what they don't know. They don't know about you, your brilliance, your language, but they might have already decided the algorithm isn't interested, and that creates a layer of inequality. But we're all going to die someday. No matter what the tech bros say, whatever we become after who we are on this earth, we leave a legacy. And that is a reality, that is a fact too for the rest of us who are left, right? And so this is about life, reminding the things we create, the power that we create, the systems that we create, that we're the life on this planet, and you're supposed to be appreciating what we can do, not what you can put on top of us. So this is why we have to advocate. Even if you are a person who believes 100% in tech, and you think every time you hear the word artist, you just like, oh my God, shut up. If you don't advocate for AI policy, then you are going to be one of those people who, just like all the rest of the tech bros, who suddenly want laws when China steals your tech. Because the other thing that happens with advocacy for AI policy is the tech does not believe in, no business believes in a regulation till they think they're behind their competitor. No business believes in regulation till their competitor has stole their thing. You guys might remember OpenAI came out and they released ChatGPT and they were kings of the world, and Matt Altman was like, oh yeah, until China came out with DeepSeek. And then all of a sudden the headlines were, oh, well, we need some regulation. Like all of a sudden they were willing to talk about, we need regulation. So AI regulation is a thing that's going to happen whether you believe in it or not. So it's a matter of, are you engaged in the future of your own fate? are you talking about? And the best way to circumvent the power of a tech bro is through your power as a person. Now, the problem with that is that technology, because it's not democratizing and it's causing inequalities, is actually making it harder for people to push back. But you, right now, us, we are the future of the human race. Everything we decide, every individual, how we treat our relationship to how we're going to thrive in a world with technology everywhere that is not up to us, we're the ones who are we're either going to show people how you made it or how you aren't going to make it. Right? And so as a theater artist, one of the things I know is no matter what has happened throughout history, all the way back to the Greeks and even a little before that, I can tell you what happened and the pattern that tells the test of time. And there's lots of things that change in technology, but the things about humanity still hold true. And so you can look back at all the other revolutions we've been a part of and see what the pattern is. People get this early adoption, they spread it around everywhere, they start to realize the harmful effects, and then they start to try to make adjustments to protect society, right? So we're in the part where everyone's really excited about all this new stuff. And that's kind of like when they discovered how Madame Curie discovered that radium glows in the dark. You can still see things with your eyes closed. And so then they started getting radium and everything to make it glow in the dark. And you hear those old 1940s stories of the radium dial girls painting radium on watches. And what they were doing was they were giving everyone radiation sickness because they were sending radioactive glow in the dark stuff to every household. And they went, oh wait, we should regulate nuclear waste, right? So here we are. We've seen that already. We know what happens. So we can get to the part now where we go, okay, this is about proliferation, and we can actually do something about that. My father was a nuclear rocket scientist. I know all about arms proliferation treaties, and it can be done. So at the local level, where you can impact, if you feel the technology is being there to serve you, or it's there to actually do less than you can do, but cheaper, is you can already start insisting that in your workplace you have policies that put it a human-centered thing, that make sure that a person has to review things even if they use AI, so that you aren't taking human discernment out of the equation. Even if something might be faster with AI, that's no different than any other collaborator or employee. You still need to check their work to make sure that they don't screw up your job. My lighting company does trade shows and rock and roll shows all around the world that I'm not at, but I have to check my stuff to make sure it comes correct, right? So in your own workplace, don't make an AI policy that doesn't involve the human component, right? Because part of this is setting a tone to say people are part of the point. If we're creating ways to eliminate the need for someone's position, how are we using their skills to advance our position? Instead of getting rid of them, how do we help move ourselves up next with that person? Yeah.
Could you give us an example of a policy?
Well, as an educator, we were the first to be forced to have to come up with rules because of ChatGPT and writing papers, right? So all around the world, the college professors are like, what are we supposed to do? What's the best practices? What's the whatever, right? And they had to come together and talk, do we ban it? Do we assign it? Do we do it as group projects, right? And so if we were to say, as universities would love to hear, you don't need teachers. Just give them the ChatGPT, have them charge the fee, have them sign up for the class, go online and just do all their little writing assignments, and then get their grade, and they get their grade, and there's been no human review, but hey, they filled it all out, right? There's no human discernment. So the policies at the educational level are all about, now it's, yes, maybe the best way is to assign the tool and then critique it as a class, to assign with or without so that people can learn to have their own judgment. So again, it's an example of the policy isn't no ChatGPT. The policy isn't we're not going to hold you accountable to a person reading it and coming back to you with the edits. It's, yes, here's the tool, but it's not any good if a person says, that's no good to me. Right now we're in a society where the business wants to take out the person talking back. And so that's called public voice opportunity. They just want to say the computer never makes a mistake. And so once we've done this 100 times to prove it works, we don't need to hire someone when there's a problem. right? So one example is allowing people in your business to use certain things, but to always have personal review. The other idea of policies have to do with how do you disclose your use, right? There might be people who have policy of never saying if they used AI for artwork on a presentation or whatever, but in the arts world, the most important thing is this idea of being able to give credit where it's due. So learning to adopt policies where you normalize citing that you used AI. Coming up with the best ways to make sure that if you've used AI to create a report, it's not about vilifying that, it's about disclosing it, because then the people reading your report can make their own judgment if they like the language model that you was trained on. You see what I'm saying? So those are important policies. The other thing is to even have the conversation about ethics and AI within your workplaces, is to have the conversation about ethics that people don't have every day, right? To even say, hey, I don't want to use AI because it stole all the artwork from other people. Okay, fine, great, then that can be a policy. Or I'd like to use AI, but it stole the artwork from other people. Oh, but there are AI products where they actually have everyone's permission. So I could use AI from there and it would be ethical. Right? So now that we've had AI a while, we've seen the problems. Already you're seeing a whole economy around ethical AI companies, right? So you can actually find the same tech, but maybe in a way that isn't going to make you feel like you've betrayed your own people in doing the work. Here's where we're in a big problem. Industries and best practices are having to come up with their own standards so everyone can agree what's a good job for their workplace. You know, whether or not that's acceptable for a lighting designer to use that software program to make that work or not, that kind of thing. But we have no actual laws right now. There was an executive order at the national level under the previous administration that actually had an AI Bill of Rights and a technology Bill of Rights, and they had there was like a whole bunch of, they'd talked to people in every sector to try to get an idea of how do we begin to move forward and get accountability into what we do. And all of that was put in the round file with the next administration, who promptly got rid of all the regulation that had been in there and put all the industry leaders in as their czars and captains. So we have when I say we have no oversight at the federal level, I'm not being hyperbolic. And the problem is that we were actually leading the rest of the world in getting people on a page of agreement. So now the rest of the world you've got treaties in the Gulf region, treaties in the EU, treaties in the UK, and they're all working to find ways to come regulate. And the official position of this administration is to let business show us the way. Yes?
Do you believe that to be a good thing or a bad thing?
Huh?
Do you believe that to be a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, as I said, a tool is a tool. But what I believe is that our head is detached from our human body, like our collective. By creating a situation where this is what happened in Silicon Valley when I was growing up. And when you come here, this place is 30 years. It's like looking like Rip Van Winkle, which is what makes me a good futurist at this point, because it's true. Like I've been able to sort of game it out, you know. And my dad was able to shoot a rocket by guessing where it would land. That's kind of what I do, but in creative culture space. But within the area of innovation, you do need the freedom to try things. But what you hear often in the debates publicly about having regulation versus not regulation is that it's some kind of false either-or argument. We can create any kind of environment we need to allow successful, responsible experimentation to take place. And that does not have to be in any race to our doom, when it can be mindful steps toward a renaissance. So that we're doing all this work not to destroy ourselves, but to actually get somewhere with it, right? So in the technological world, the government can even carve out what they do. They carve out what they call sandboxes. Is anyone familiar with this term? They create special projects or realms where they'll give a company, an innovator, permission to have looser, like as long as they can do it as a controlled experiment, you know, like a bomb disposal unit will contain any explosion. If they can prove they've created a sort of safe way where it won't contaminate, they're given permission to innovate in different real world, the same way medical things can do trials, right? They call them sandboxes. The idea that there's an either or here that's the lie. It's a yes and. And that is the point of the creative industries. It goes back to the point of why I started at the beginning talking about the rocket scientist dad and the school teacher mom. What they're trying to replicate in AI is our ability to adjust, adapt, think, and decide. No one will ever adapt fast. No machine will ever adapt faster for a human that's made by a human. Like, we cannot do that. Every single researcher I work with at the high end at Rochester Institute, MIT, they all say the same thing. There's never going to be anything that adapts faster than a human being, because we process information we don't even know we're getting, because it's like layers of light that our eyes can't see. There's so much about us we don't know, but we still transfer between us because of how whatever's going on with our ability to communicate is deeper than just words and facts, right? It's about the awareness that gives you ideas. And there's something about that happens human to human. That's a human being thing. And so technology will never out-human a human being. So why are we trying to make something do something it'll never do, instead of what it can do really well that's better than us? If we don't have regulation, the only questions being asked of the technology are how fast can it make that investor money? And if we don't have regulation, there is no conversation about what do humans really need from it. So the regulations are really the channels of communication that people with the money and power are forced to have open. And if we don't put those there, we don't have any say in what they do next. And we all are feeling the consequences of that. So how do human beings assert they have a right to say what you're doing is going to impact me? Well, in a democracy, you have a legal right to speak back. And that's what the regulations are about. Yeah.
Speaking to the past, and going between your past experience, have you seen another example of something grew in an unregulated environment in its infancy, meaning that AI is so new technically? Is there any other example of something that was new that developed in an unregulated environment?
Well, I think you can kind of look at all kinds of systems in our society that have had success or failures, whether or not they've been left alone or not. And technology is just another construct of people. So let us not forget, it's still an extension of somebody's arm, somebody's bank book. And so it's still people, which is why these ideas that we can somehow avoid being people and making those same mistakes every generation, no, they're always going to be the same temptations. So why do I say that? We've never had AI, so we can't quite point to technology that's AI to show us, right? But we can point to things like, remember when they said, oh wow, that oleander looks great in everyone's front yard. It grows great in the desert. Oh, I'll get some too. I'll have a few clippings of mine. And then everyone realized oleander is poisonous and kills your children and your pets. So then the government has to come back and rip it out of everybody's yard. Right? Like I said, the radium dials. Or anytime a drug recalls happen, and people thought, remember when fen-phen was the weight loss drug? Because I was working for attorneys back then who were injury attorneys, and they were making tons of money because everyone had taken fen-phen, and then they realized it was giving everyone heart attacks. So that got recalled. So this is why technology of this kind, what makes it different than other technology is they have intentionally tried to force it to invade spaces that are not natural for technology, by implying it can do art and create for us, that it can think for us, that it can replace the power of a good employee with experience because it just has a lot of file space, right? So the challenge here is they're not wrong about the technology being amazing, but they're thinking about who the investor is in that technology. They're not thinking about who the humans are that are going to be impacted by it. So without humans being able to give the feedback and have that meaningfully stop when there needs to be a stop, then you're just going to continue to see them isolate until the ones with the most money have the nicest castle, and they're going to stay in it, and they're going to stay fed till they die, and they're not going to think about everybody else, because that's what's happening, right? So what you have now is in our country, we don't have any federal protection, but that means our greatest power is at the state level. So the entire country, every state is now having to create its own AI protections. And there are some states trying and some states that aren't, and the states that aren't are giving away all the goodies to the corporations. So, but you can look to other countries to advocate in this country and say, hey, you were part of this just 2 years ago, America. Why don't we get back on that? So you can point to somewhere else to start asking questions, because everywhere else is thinking about this. The other thing is to remember that, again, within your own arm's reach, the questions you ask will have impact immediately and long term. within your sphere with your friends, you have the power to leverage each other's strengths, to ask questions in the workplace or out in your community. You should be asking what people's attitudes are toward AI and what's their policy or guardrails at every layer of your life. So you understand how much of this is controlling you versus you having a say in it, right? And then you think about what's just beyond your sphere. I started off as a theater director, and the first thing I started to do was just like search. Who is making decisions? Oh, there's an executive order. I Googled it and I read it. And then I looked in the footnotes to see who were the people who helped write this Google, and I looked what groups do they belong to. And so that led me to reaching beyond my sphere and realizing that people who aren't artists are afraid to talk about art, so they don't understand the creative mind. And so they need to be invited by artists. So I went to tech spaces and talked about art. I've talked in every kind of place for every kind of advocacy to help remind people that people are the point of whatever you're doing. So don't tell me what business you're helping, tell me what person you're helping. Down to the person, who are you helping? What's the individual? If you can ask what's the individual at the end of every story, that helps them make a better product, no matter what they're doing. And then to remind people that, especially here, in our state, we make more money with creative industries than mining. We are one of the largest sectors, which is why I advocated really hard, and we got creative industries listed as part of the strategic plan in Nevada's economic development plan. Creative industries and local arts are listed there because they agreed with me that it connects to their tech innovation. And right now, they say it in lips, but not in budget, that we need to be supporting people who have the creative minds to help work with the tech community. So if you're a tech person, you need to support the arts or you're not gonna have any good employees thinking forward. So here's some places you can go. So yeah, there's my website, but this is the one I really love, and UNLV is a great, oh, it's not, oh, because I'm not thinking, sorry, shoot, okay. Well, anyway, I will, oh, for some reason that one's up, that's good. Okay, so UNLV is a great place to have these technology and creativity interface. We have interdisciplinary resource groups where they take in people from, say, a College of Business and the College of Arts and put them together and said, what kind of interdisciplinary problems? Like, what are problems that lay over on top of both of you that you want to research or fix? And so I was asked to join this cohort, and I am now, we're part of this creative industries and business media cohort where we do cultural tourism research, we do education and training research, but I've started the Creative Industries Research Collab at UNLV, which is now is a think tank for creative industries, creative economy, where we're like a thought leader, because we're already the industry leader in this stuff with all of the tech and creativity on the strip, but no one's treating us like a thought leader. So you can connect with UNLV to find out for more resources, but I wish A2RU was loading for me. But okay, so I will, if you go to Eat More Art Vegas, there's resources, but A2RU stands for the Association of Arts Researchers in Universities, which is why it's A2, two A's. A2RU is a thing that UNLV belongs to, which means if you have any kind of UNLV email, you get like the membership. You're a member. It is where all the people who do creativity at higher ed and creative science, like at MIT, where you might have like a graphic artist working with the space program or something cool, this is where we publish journals, you see research projects together, we have annual conferences, we're part of this AI and arts policy leadership working group, when it's professors from arts and other industry artists coming together, and we sort of try to lead in the scholarship, pushing against tech to have conversations. You can click on their resources, the journals are all free to read and stuff like that. So you can get information about people all around the country in different backgrounds. And then you, of course, have the Arts and Creative Entertainment Chamber that Rachel is the president of, who founded it and brought me on board as a co-vice president. And that is the business chamber for arts and creative businesses. So if you connect with that organization, anyone from an individual a student on up can join. And that's where the partnership with all the think tank work I'm doing is going to have its public, the information is going to go from there into the chamber. So that informs our advocacy at the chamber. And that is basically made up entirely of local business orders across Nevada who are all in the creative industries. Everything from hairstylists
movie producers and special effects people and theater directors like me who do artsy, educational stuff, right? So that's your local contact to the creative people. If you're looking for business partners, you can contact the chamber and you'll find people who are willing to work with non-arts people all the time, right? I showed you that, UNLV this is the cohort I'm a part of, the Media Research IRDA, and then there's a website for our cohort as well. We're publishing our research and our white papers and things like that. So the point is this. There's lots of ways to engage, but the most important thing is that you understand that you should be putting your voice into anywhere. Ask the question. There was an attempt at the state level to legislate something about AI and people and protecting customers, but right now there's really nothing except for some very minimal privacy protections. No one knows what to do because they didn't write the laws yet, so the industry's trying to do what it can before the laws catch up to it. The laws aren't going to catch up to it unless we actually protect ourselves by asking questions. So where you're going to want to look is in anything related to commerce, because almost all of the places that don't have any AI policy, it's the committees associated with commerce where you're going to find the legislators you should be asking, what are you doing, what's in the works? Because one thing I promise you, we are in the land of Elon Musk and people who wanted to build a crypto city not too long ago. Remember that? Before the crypto financial crisis that people forgot happened a couple of years ago. We are in a place where the money from the industries that want no regulation want to not regulate it here because we have the place everyone wants to build data centers. And the last thing I'll say is everything that's AI involves natural resources. So no matter how enthusiastic you are about the technology, if you aren't thinking about the policy, understand that they will allow it to eat the planet in the same way that we lost. If we hadn't had Teddy Roosevelt, we wouldn't have Yosemite. Because that's kind of where we're at in the correlation between the Industrial Revolution and here, right? But we have Yosemite. Because people said, yeah, we like parks, right? So that's why it's not a defeatist thing. So you can find contacts anywhere at these, the last thing, I'm sorry. This is the international organization I belong to. It's a Center for AI and Digital Policy. What we do is we evaluate countries and publish an index every year of the health of the country's AI policies in relation to democracy. So you can see where your country rates, and we went from being at the top. Now we're behind. We're ahead of Kuwait, but we're behind like a lot of other countries that you'd be ashamed are ahead of us in the way we do things now, because what they eliminated was the public voice opportunity. When they got rid of the old way they used to do cabinets and information at the administrative level, at the national level, where you'd contact that secretary's office and get their reports. They got rid of all that. So what you have now is you have no way to actually send a comment to any kind of relevant US government person except your own representatives or directly to Congress and tell them what you think. But there used to be a way, just like you did with legislation, to say specifically on this point, I have these things, and that used to matter when they'd make their policies. So what we were fighting for now is the one thing that we can actually do, which is individual public voice opportunities. So even at this major international organization that we partner with the UN and give them advising, we go out and we look for all the local places where you can type in a comment, and you have people from all over the world trying to help give public voice, right? Because that's the only way to protect us. But it's actually the way that will work. But again, the main point here is to point out that you cannot do away with all your customers or you don't have any sales, right? We all understand that that's always the problem with capitalism. And that what we're looking for is a sustainable kind of way of circulating our economy so our world can go round. And what they're trying to do with AI is create a spigot where they take as much of our intellectual productivity as they can right now and they milk it to see exactly what's the minimum they have to leave the human race with to keep it good for them. That's how it's all being funneled because we don't have those protections right now in this country. But it's just a spigot can be turned off. All people have to do is vote no. You have to talk to us first, and now we can give feedback. They have to listen. So That's why I'm not unoptimistic, but I am concerned if people are checking out of the conversation. When if someone like me, who just kind of butted her nose in off the street, got all the way to the place I'm at now where I can give you all kinds of information like this, it's proof that it works as long as we don't let them talk us out of trying it. So anyway, sorry that was a lot, but if there's any questions, it was kind of a big top kind of like of the idea, but if you want to follow up, I am anywhere you need to find me, you can find me.
You can also reach out to me and I can get you guys connected as well. So.
Yeah, so thank you. And remember, you are what you eat, so eat more art. I have postcards to give you each so you can remember my website to find it, so.
You know, that's a great topic, so thank you so much for helping us cover that. I know that I read someplace, so you probably know more about it as well, like California, didn't they put some policy in place so that creatives, actors would not be replaced by AI?
Oh, well, people are always negotiating, like, okay, that was a big part of those strikes and the contracts with SAG.
Right.
Of course, the only, the thing about technology is it's that whole build me a 12-foot wall, I'll build you a 13-foot ladder, right? I mean, that's the way it works. So
right.
I think what has to happen now is the mind shift. We are working so hard to try to game each other with this technology. Think of all the energy and money being wasted that we're not making something with it. But there are plenty of people in the world who are asking what we can make with it, but they're not asking it openly enough in America because of all the same biases and attitude, And I grew up in Silicon Valley from an Air Force brat all the way up to whatever, and I've seen it all, and I'm in showbiz now, and we do rock and roll, like, people are people, man. And so we can get involved in this. We can start asking the questions that make something instead of break something, right? That's what the theater does.
Yeah, and I love that conversation, and we'll have to continue it at some point. One of the things with the SBDC and the different clients that I help to support, so if they come to me as a technology company or any kind of a business actually, oftentimes when it comes to AI, one, they may need help in how to use it, which are the best AI tools for their business, right? But sometimes they think it's a do-all, like it's going to actually build the business and give them all of that knowledge that they don't already have. So my goal and our goal at the SBDC is to help empower our small business owners, right? We can help you identify tools and we can help you to understand which ones may be best for your environment, but we also want to empower you so that you understand it. So there's this whole thing, even like with a business plan, right? If you're looking for a business loan, bankers are still looking for a business plan. Well, there's this whole notion like, well, we'll run it through ChatGPT and it'll issue us a business plan. Kind of negates the point of you understanding your own business model.
Right, because you're expressing, the thing I always tell people is writing is you finding a way to make shape of your thinking so people can see it. Like, you're taking something completely, we still don't know, is it a quantum carbon dot? Or is it actual thought? Like, how small does that piece of information that is a conglomerated thought that we spit out?
Yeah.
Right? And you're taking that and you're trying to find ways to show what you understand that to mean. And when someone just hands you your business plan, and then at a lunch someone asks you 2 feet from your face to talk.
And that actually, and that actually happens often. That happens often. I have a lot of people that will give me business plans. It's like, okay, I see which parts are AI generated, or where you use that inspiration. Okay, you reworded it, great. But now tell me about your business. Right? What is your business model? What is your objective? What is your revenue model? Right? And so when we start to break it down, they go, it's in the business plan. Right? So a lot of this is really, yes, let's use it as a tool. Again, I get a lot of clients that look for it. How do I use it as a tool? What's the difference between the different AI tools? But then also a lot of tech companies that are building their tech using AI.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you're talking about intellectual property. What parts are protected, right? Can you IP protect? And which parts are they saying no, like a certain percentage has to be human created?
I think that's an important point about running a good business just in general. This idea of wishful thinking, it is what it is. Like in the theater, it is what it is. Like the whole reason no one knows better that there's no such thing as magic than someone who has to make people think there's magic. So it is what it is, and we know it in producing theater. And so businesses who right now are spending so much time trying to figure out how to get away with having cheated artists are not in any way solving the problem of uncertainty for themselves in the future by cheating artists and hoping to get away with it. It's very different when you earn your money versus you stole it. You either don't worry at night about that money in your back pocket, or you do worry about that money in your pocket.
Sure.
So a smart business would be managing its risk by being proactively collaborative with the humans impacted by it. Because I don't see how that it weatherproofs your business when there's questions, when you show you've acted in good faith and there's a lawsuit. And if you show you've taken no care, you're seeing right now that judges are starting to give
Absolutely.
writers and stuff a lot of pushback that they
Right.
didn't have before. You can't write, okay, I'm going to steal all this now, and in my business plan 10 years, they're going to sue me for $20 million, and I'll have, you want to plan not to get sued by how you run your business, right?
Well, and I think there is that whole thing with the human element that we take for granted. I also have clients that come to me that are creating AI tools. It's really a matter of, it's gotten so ahead of us in so many ways, but yet when they come to me and I am managing hundreds of clients, so whatever that percentage is that's in the tech space, that's in that AI space, I can see how they're using AI, and there's not a whole lot of new innovation happening there. It's funny because I have this revolutionary idea, nobody else is doing it, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, I just spoke to 20 of you that are using the exact same thing, trying to do the exact same thing, right? And
It comes back to the individual. Yeah.
exactly, and that, yes,
There's still also the point where that data has to come from somewhere. It's the same with any physical resource. If you burn down the forest that you're getting all your wood from, you're not going to have any wood.
Exactly.
What happens is a lot of people misuse AI. They think that, okay, I'm going to let it do everything for me. I use AI constantly. I use AI on my phone everywhere. But I use it in a different format. I use it to take my idea in my head and formulate it, and then let me look at how it's been processed, and then I tweak it from there.
Sure.
I don't use AI to say, hey, create me a plan and don't have any input. And that's where it gets back to what you were saying, where you have clients come in and say, here's my business plan. Well, they didn't put any input into it.
absolutely.
They didn't use their own numbers. They didn't pull their numbers from their accounting system. They didn't take a look at, their business as a whole. What do I deal with every day? Take that knowledge and put that in the AI and let the AI format it for you. Then you can present it, because everything in that format is what you've experienced, is what your business goes through. And I think some people, they misconstrue that.
Right, because they think prompting is analysis.
Yes,
It's not-
Exactly, it's not analysis, yeah.
In most cases, I would say maybe 65 to 70% of the time, well, I wouldn't say that. I'd say maybe about 65% of the time, the information in the AI is not correct.
Right.
So
Yes.
you have to go back and look and say, well, that's not what. So now you're playing around with the prompts, trying to get it to give you proper information, but there's no way to fact check it. So that's why your own information from your own business, you have to put it in there. Because
Absolutely.
if you know your business, all the AI is really doing is formatting it for you, and then putting it in a package where it can be presented. And I think a lot of folks, they miss that.
I think they miss it.
They miss that.
And it's part of that whole, human instinct of wanting to compete. We have to stay up, and somebody's ahead of me. They already know more about the tools, or in the same business field, and I need to catch up. And so,
Yeah, and because it's about intelligence, this is the real problem, that in matters of intelligence,
Yes.
it will always be about the development of one storyline, one through line. So you are not competing against the guy next to you.
Yeah.
Learning is about competition with yourself. Like, this is your limit, and now I've surpassed that. I've gone deeper. I know more.
Yeah.
And people are using it like this.
Yeah.
And it's actually supposed to be more like this.
Yeah, this is-
Right.
They misinterpret that,
I mean, it really does defeat the purpose of a plan Because the purpose of a plan is to explain your train of thought to someone else.
Yeah.
And AI cannot have a train of thought that's not a technology.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely.
That's the way to put it.
Yeah.
It can't, it doesn't know what you deal with on an everyday basis. It only knows what you put into
And
it.
if we
Absolutely.
keep using it as a way to avoid English class, and not, this is the other problem, the misappropriation of the technology in terms of research. The things are not using it to solve. Because they're there to solve someone's marketing business problem. And I think that's just because that is the easiest way
It
to
is the
use
easiest
it.
way,
And
yes.
everything else, again, it still involves what you bring.
Yeah, what you bring in, you have to put.
Right, and so it's
Like the
interesting.
low-hanging fruit.
Exactly, and that is mentality of a lot of startup businesses.
Which is why I
It really is.
policy place, because the real power is actually in who's going to decide where that money gets invested.
But it's still important, right? If you come to me and you say, "Hey, I've got this idea for a business. This is my background. Help me get started. I'm trying to keep up with some of the tools. I'm seeing that industry is moving in that direction. Help me." I'm going to introduce the tools to you, right? And we're still going to work through them and try to optimize all of that, but still with the idea that this is your business, it was your vision, it was your thought. So let's make sure we have a good understanding and a good framework of it so that we can develop it, build upon it, grow it, commercialize it, and follow all of those other stages. So those are all still really important.
This is the point too, when we identify for ourselves, like we are in this conversation about what it's good for and what it isn't good for, but now look at what the people creating the technology are saying. It's not quite the same sales pitch.
Yes.
They're
Exactly.
not talking about what
Yeah.
it isn't good for.
Yeah.
And they're not talking about, so then there are the people though, there's groups like AI for Good, and where they're looking at what is it good for. Again, the governments of other wealthy governments are paying to support their people to engage in that work, and now you have to self-fund it. So that's the challenge.
Exactly.
But we can do it.
So,
Yes,
yes.
I'm just going to say another thing too, and this kind of blankets all over. We here in the United States, we live in a quick gratification society.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we want everything right now. So even if it means that we just put something out there with no thought behind it, we do it because we want that gratification. And then this is where AI comes and kind of manipulates that.
Yeah, just like social media does. Because it's the same people. They're using the same thing they did get you on social media to get you
Right.
to be unescapably surrounded by it.
So I hate to cut it short because I love this conversation. But before we leave, okay, lunch is being served over there. Again, they comp it, so please, go enjoy the food and network and everything else. But I was also going to mention that, I touched a little bit on the incubators and the accelerators and the importance of them and the traction that they've gained here in Las Vegas. But I also see, and in speaking with those leading the incubators and accelerators, a lot of the companies that participate in those and graduate from those still fail. Okay, because they are scaling too quickly. They're dependent on tools. They're dependent on AI, and they don't have a true understanding of business, or they haven't done their market analysis, whatever it might be, and they're just not ready. So they launch fast, they get funding too fast, or they think they're going to get funding too fast, and they just have to start over. And so it's really interesting. There is this whole thing happening here, so I'd love to be able to continue the conversations. And definitely stay in touch, and maybe this requires a bigger kind of a panel conversation or open forum type of a conversation.